Welcome to the Book of Lists launch. I'm Michael Curran from the Ottawa Business Journal. We're here today in this virtual event to launch a very long-standing and special project for the Ottawa Business Journal. I'm referring to the Book of Lists, our 2021 issue. I get the pleasure of hosting today, but really all of the hard work is done by the team at OBJ, and I'm going to introduce them right now. Please welcome to our broadcast Peter Kavesi, OBJ's head of content, and Lisa Thibodeau, who leads up our research. So Peter, let's start with you. If someone has never heard of the Book of Lists, what the heck is it?
So in short, it is the most authoritative guide to businesses in Ottawa. It's really unparalleled in that there is no other publication, no other resource that really has so much information about companies that are operating here in the National Capital Region. So just in very short, what it is, it's a publication divided into more than 30 lists, divided into broad industries that profile the largest companies in each industry. It ranges from accounting firms, advertising agencies, hotels, public relations, government relations firms. It's a very, very long list filled with contact information about the company, their key clients, key executives, and as well some facts and figures about the economy here in Ottawa.
It's jam-packed with data. And Peter, by the way, I used the word long-standing in the intro. In your wide shot, I noticed that you have a little bit of a memento in the background. You've got an old copy. I'm not sure if it's the first copy, but show it to us.
So here I thought that I was pretty proud. This is my 10th year doing the Book of Lists, but it turns out that doesn't really mean too much when you can see how far back it goes. This is the oldest copy I was able to find in the office, and I have to give a shout out to someone, of course, who's a big part of OBJ. The Mark Sutcliffe, CEO and Editor-in-Chief of Ottawa Business Journal.
There you go. Yeah, that brings back some memories. Lisa, you carry the load when it really comes to all of the research that goes into this. It takes months and months and months. But tell us about what that process is like, Lisa.
Absolutely, Mike. So Book of Lists is definitely one of OBJ's most popular publications, and it's a project that takes months of work from our team's end. We do a massive outreach to companies every year that, we really want to ensure the information in the book is as up-to-date and accurate as possible. So this really consists of, numerous emails and phone calls, which I'm sure many people saw this year coming up in their inbox, for us to check in with local leaders and business owners to make sure that we do have accurate numbers and a representation of how their company is really looking. So this year we had nearly 700 responses to our outreach, which is really fantastic and goes a long way into ensuring that the book is as effective as possible as a tool in the business community.
We're going to change your title, Lisa, to Research Harassment. Because that's what it takes.
I'm sure some people must feel that way, yes.
Yeah. Peter, just as we're wrapping up this first segment, give us a sense of what makes this year so special.
Well, obviously 2020 was a year like no other for all businesses here in Ottawa. So I have to admit that as we started the research part of the project, I was a little bit nervous because so many of us had conversations with people in the business community about the challenges that they're having in 2020. What was I'm going to say a really nice surprise is that as the responses started to come in, the picture that did emerge was one of resilience. So we saw how many of Ottawa's companies, are not built for, 1 or 2 years, but are really, looking to build companies that are going to be around for the long term, that are deeply embedded, in global supply chains, that are just defining entire new industries. And it was a really, really encouraging picture that does come up. We have to be, realistic that this was still a very, very challenging period for a lot of industries. The Book of Lists has an entire section devoted to the tourism industry, and just for example, there were a couple of very familiar names missing from the hotels list as some hospitality operators made the difficult decision to close their doors permanently. So certainly none of that is to we understand that this was still a very difficult year for a lot of people, but a lot of businesses. But definitely the picture that did emerge is one of strength and resilience that positions Ottawa's economy well for recovery in the 2021.
Listen, we're going to wrap it up there. Peter, great job. Lisa, great job. And let's keep up the good work. We're going to make sure that everyone reaps the benefits of all the research and editorial work that you guys have done. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
So as part of today's broadcast, we're going to have a little bit of fun. Yes, it's allowed to have fun in a pandemic. The Book of Lists is full of all of these fascinating factoids. It might be when a company was first established. It might be a client of a company listed in the Book of Lists. So we're going to be flashing on screen throughout this broadcast some trivia questions. All of the answers to the trivia questions are in the 2021 Book of Lists. You see where we're going with this. And it's not only going to be a brain teaser for you. We've made a contest out of this. So we're going to challenge our viewers today to look at those questions, find the answers, and send the submission to contest@obj.ca, contest@obj.ca email, by the way. We're then going to randomly draw from people that have the correct answers. And we've got a great prize from none other than Stephen Bechta, owner of Bechta, Gezeleg, and Play. And Stephen's, in fact, going to be on the program in just a few minutes, and he'll tell us a little bit more about that prize. So again, stay tuned for Book of Lists trivia. Here it comes. One of the big supporters of the Book of Lists is a large organization that I'm quite sure all of our viewers are familiar with. It's the Commissioners of Ottawa. They employ, by the way, about 3,500 people in Ottawa, and in the division overall, that's about 4,000 people. Joining us right now is the CEO of Commissioners Ottawa, Paul Guindon. Welcome, Paul.
Good. Well, thank you very much, Michael, to allow me to participate in this great event.
Yeah, it's good to see you. Hopefully we'll see each other face to face at some point in the future.
Yes.
So listen, Paul, what I wanted to ask is, as I indicated, Commissioners is a big employer here, one of the biggest private sector employers, in fact, in Ottawa. What type of year has 2020 been for the Commissioners of Ottawa?
Well, it has been certainly different, just like for everybody else. But at the outset of the pandemic, we had to quickly turn ourselves around to make sure that we were servicing our clients properly. As an essential service provider, it was paramount to do that. But our top priority was, in order to service our clients, our top priority was to take care of our own people. So we quickly put the directives and regulations and equipment in place, allow people, in fact, more than allow people, we shut down the office for a few weeks in the early days. People were working from home. Now we're sort of, 45, 50% back in the office. And our whole program, our whole approach paid us, great dividend, because we have very, very few, a handful of affected people. And we were able to service our clients throughout the, so far, from early March through today, and certainly going forward as well.
And it occurs to me, Paul, that a service like yours, Commissioners for Ottawa, of course, is much more than just a guard service. But even if many buildings are empty these days, there's still valuable pieces of property that need to be protected as well, don't they?
For sure. So in some instances, the service required were downscaled a little bit. But for the most part, what was in place remained. And in fact, we added to the business in support of organization that needed us in order to secure their facilities and people throughout this pandemic. So in terms of business, it has grown a little bit, but that's not what's important. What's really important was to stabilize ourselves so that our client would be satisfied, and I think we did a pretty damn good job.
Absolutely. Everybody needs to take a people first approach, and particularly when you've got 4,000 people, my goodness, in your division. Listen, Paul, we're going to wrap things up now, but this isn't the end of what we'll be hearing from the Commissioners of Ottawa. As you know, we have a series of videos throughout today's broadcast that will explore the full range of services the Commissioners of Ottawa offers to its clients here in Ottawa. So thank you, Paul, for your support, and good luck in 2021.
Well, thank you very much, Michael. Congratulations to you and your team. I mean, you've displayed agility to make sure that this important program goes forward. And just like most of us, you were able to turn yourself around in your teams, and job well done. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Bye-bye.
Well, one of the industries that's been hard hit, there can be no doubt, is the hospitality industry that makes up all sorts of businesses, including restaurants. I'm sure many of today's viewers will recognize that the preponderance of restaurants in our city is such an important part of our quality of life. And I'm pleased to be joined right now by one of the top restaurateurs in the city. Please welcome Stephen Bechta. Hello, Stephen.
Thanks so much, Michael. Great to be here.
Yeah. So listen, let's start off, and maybe it'll be a little bit of a down note. It has been such a hard year for restaurants. You're involved with 3 restaurants, Bechta, Play, and Gezelig. Tell me about what 2020 has been like for you, Stephen.
Well, it's certainly been a challenge. You know, we had to quickly shut down March 15th, and we were closed indoors for 4 months. And we quickly figured out that we needed to pivot and we needed to create something new. So we realized we had 3 amazing wine cellars and a great desire to care for our clients and also care for our staff and hire as many of them back as possible right away. And so we started this Curated by Bechta wine package program where we served a little bit of food with a lot of custom curated wine, and it worked out really well. And then we wanted to rehire more and more of our staff, so we decided to offer these 3-course fine dining meal kits that are finished in your home in 20 minutes. So every week on Monday night, I take this meal kit home and I do a YouTube video and I show everyone at home how to finish off this beautiful food. And that's been super successful. So we do anywhere from 200 to 600 meal kits per week. And then we've got hot food takeout at all of our restaurants. Our restaurants have been opened again and then shut down again and then opened again. So it's a bit of a yo-yo, but the Curated by Bechta program has been very successful, and it's allowed us to sort of smooth things out throughout the ups and downs of opening and closing, and keep so many of our staff employed.
There probably isn't a better example, I think, potentially than Bechta in terms of how you've pivoted. I guess that's the word of the year. Tell me about where restaurants might have to go, Stephen, from a business model perspective. Like, let me just reframe that question as I pitch it at you. Is this a permanent change in your business model? I guess is what I'm asking you.
Oh, I think for sure it is. Look, it's going to be a long time before things are all back to normal, especially large group events, which we were really known for, those groups of 10 to 15 to 20 to 30. And so, you just need to find other ways to connect with your guests and to take care of them. And so we'll take out and meal kits and curated wine packages always be part of our future business plan. 100% it is. And that's, you just have to figure out, how to offer great things and great experiences to your clients, whether it's in the dining room or at home.
As we enter 2021, Stephen, hopefully there'll be more certainty in 2021. Obviously, the pandemic took everybody as an incredible shock. What do you see coming for the broader restaurant sector in Ottawa in 2021?
Well, I think sadly there is going to be a correction. No matter what, we are going to lose some of our independent restaurants and even maybe some large chains. The Buka Restaurant Group in Toronto just filed for bankruptcy, and they had 9 of the top restaurants in Toronto. So it's hard, it's difficult, and not everyone has the resources that we have had in terms of the people around us and the abilities to access the government programs that are out there. And so regardless, it's going to be a tough year coming up, and but hopefully most people can make it to the other side and find new and interesting ways to connect with their guests, both in the restaurant and at home.
Stephen, I want to thank you for your time today. You're not only participating, though, in the launch of the Book of Lists, you're also supporting us in a fun little initiative. As viewers might have seen earlier in the show, that we are pitching some trivia questions at them. And the idea is that people will take in those trivia questions, maybe flip through, by the way, the new 2021 Book of Lists, find some answers and email them back to us, and then they win a prize. And you provided the prize. Just give us a quick overview of what's included in that, if it's fresh in your mind, Stephen.
Yeah, absolutely. It's sort of our best-selling package, which is this dinner for 2. It's an incredible experience. Again, 2 3-course fine dining meals paired with 2 incredible bottles of premium wine delivered to your home anywhere within 25 kilometers of Elgin Street. And so you just pick the date, and we ship this home. You get to watch the video or read the printed instructions on how to finish it, and have an incredible experience at home in the safety of your own home.
Well, it's great to know that one of our participants in today's event will be enjoying that. So, Stephen, listen, thanks for your leadership in the restaurant sector and the community at large. I know you're a big supporter of many charities, include the Boys and Girls Club. You guys have been doing a great job over there, and wishing you all the best for 2021, Stephen.
Thank you very much, Michael, and I hope this is a great launch for you.
Thank you.
Traditionally, background screening has always been about privacy, compliance, regulation, and accuracy. The future of background screening is to not compromise any of those elements, but to allow for more agility, to be really focused on the customer experience. It's about better platforms to collect information, to process that information, and then how do we share that information?
Well, one of the sections of the Book of Lists deals with real estate, and the real estate sector, of course, is comprised of many different types of businesses. One of those is architects. So I'm now pleased to be joined by Tone Dreesen, the president of Architects DCA. Welcome, Tone.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
So, Tone, as I'm thinking about 2020 in a little bit of a nostalgic way, let's get rid of 2020, by the way, nostalgic way. Many people have talked about how restaurants are struggling, service-type businesses are struggling, retailers are struggling. No one's talking about how architects have done in 2020. What's it been like from your perspective, Tone?
Well, I feel very blessed. I've had a very good year. Have been very lucky, and I'm very grateful for the year that we've had from a business perspective. But I know how lucky I am. I know that there are a lot of firms that have struggled and continue to struggle, and that's tough. Friends who have practices that are devoted to, a lot of their work is interiors or office or restaurant or in some of the really hard hit sectors in the economy. They've also seen their business change dramatically. And so that's really tough. And it's certainly something to watch in the industry going forward. I think that the year has been good for many practices, especially when we think about, government investment in social infrastructure, whether that's affordable housing or community centers or libraries. There's a lot of potential for work, and there's a lot of work that's coming out in those sectors from various government levels, both federal, municipal, and provincial. So we started to see some of that investment start to happen. And I think we're also seeing that there's a real desire for high quality public space, whether that's streets and bike lanes and sidewalks or buildings. And so, 2020 has shown the importance of a strong positive design culture. And I think we're going to start to see more of that in the future.
That's the perfect segue. Thank you for that, Tone, because I was going to ask you about design and community. You've written extensively in Ottawa Business Journal about some of these issues. It would probably take an entire podcast or a series of podcasts likely to explore this fully. But what do you think the impact of the pandemic will be on the design of our community?
Yeah, that's a good one. Be happy to have a longer conversation if you wish, but I think what we're starting to really see is that, some of the things that we've been doing for years, about making really small living spaces or marginalizing the quality of design is really starting to bear fruit. And we need to make change to that. I think what we're starting to see is a greater desire for quality and in quality of investment and better bang for the buck, if you will, in terms of the money that's being spent on social infrastructure. And these are places where architects can really help. We're here to provide design and design service. I think one of the challenging risks, and this is a bit my soapbox, is in the procurement strategies. As we see investment dollars and infrastructure dollars want to roll out, there's a time pressure that we want to do that quickly. And so it becomes harder for the small to medium-sized enterprises, which is something like 95% of all architecture practices. It's really hard to compete when RFPs are driven to the lowest fee and the lowest price. It's really hard to compete when contracts are unfair or illegal, and that's a risk. And we've seen so much of that negative impact over the last few years that I'm really hopeful that that'll change for the future.
Tone, thanks for spending some time with us today. Good luck to you, Architects DCA, and I guess the entire architectural community as we head into 2021. Let's hope it's a better year.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Threat risk assessment is a service that is needed more and more. Existing clients and new clients use that tool to make sure that they get what they need in terms of equipment, camera, security systems, and also personnel to operate them. Therefore, threat risk assessment is only one of many services that we offer our clients.
So certainly you can't talk about the local economy without focusing a little bit on the technology sector. And I'm now joined by Jamie Petton, the Executive Director and President of the Canada North Business Association. Welcome, Jamie.
Hi, Michael. Thanks very much for having me.
So as you like to say, and it bears repeating, Jamie, that KNBA is the largest technology business park in Canada.
Yes, great. It is.
So I'm going to ask you the impossible question. Summarize 2020. As far, I think there's 800, is that right, technology companies? So try to give us a wide sweeping sense of what happened with the technology sector in a pandemic year.
Well, I mean, it would be difficult to summarize 2020 in the time that we have, but I think, in the same way that the rest of our community, our city, our country, have experienced 2020, it's had its highs and its lows, and that's similar to the collective experience in the technology park. So you mentioned, Canada North as Canada's largest technology park. We have over 28,000 employed in the park, primarily in knowledge-based industries and sectors across, a ton of different sectors, as I mentioned, from telecommunications to connectivity, 5G, Internet of Things, software as a service, connected autonomous vehicles. There is an incredible amount of research and innovation that takes place in the park every day, and it has for decades. We have been fortunate to really be able to cluster these innovative companies, large and small, multinationals like Nokia and Ericsson, Ciena, BlackBerry QNX, all the way through to, a strong ecosystem of startups over the years in Canada North, and 540 companies exist in the park as a result. So, what has the 2020 experience been in the park? Well, I think we have to look at it in two lenses. First, from the lens of our technology companies. And, immediately at the outset of the pandemic, we shifted most of the workforce in Canada North to work from home, work remote. And that was not an enormously difficult shift for a tech industry. It's how we've adapted and worked for many years. So productivity, I would say, hadn't had much of an impact. If anything, that time at home, people were able to focus and maybe do some work they hadn't had at the side of their desk. But the sense of the community, the cultural impacts, the ability for colleagues and companies to get together to collaborate and innovate and think about, the future trends. Those are the things that I think we think about, in the impacts of COVID and how we can continue to maintain that accelerated rate of innovation in the park. Innovation happens at a water cooler or as you're having coffee with a colleague on the back of a napkin. And so I think many of our technology companies, while they've certainly been able to maintain their businesses in a remote environment, they'll look forward to being back in a hybrid model in the future.
Yeah, I'm sure that is the case. And Jamie, we're hopefully going to put 2020 behind us and lots of the challenges. I'm not pretending the pandemic's over. There's still some hurdles to jump here. But when you think about KNBA as an organization representing all these great technology companies in the West End, what are some of the key priorities in 2021?
Well, I think about the overall community on the whole, and the fabric of that community are small businesses. We have a concentration of technology companies, but in order for Canada North Technology Park to be a place where people actually want to kind of live, work, play, learn, we have to ensure that those small businesses, our mom and pop shops, restaurant owners, et cetera, are really supported. So we'll be focusing on that in 2021. And then in addition to that, we're thinking about the long term and the future of the evolution of the tech park. We're excited about the designation of Canada North Tech Park as a special economic zone in the city's next official plan, and really dreaming about what that will be as an innovation district, a living lab, and a place for people to truly, through mixed uses and residential components, live and work and play and learn. And the last piece that I really want to emphasize as well is the learn piece. And that's another pillar, I think, that, over these last few years, we've really accelerated in the technology park is our partnerships with post-secondary institutions. We have the University of Ottawa operating out of the park today with a campus that's just recently announced an expansion. And another partner coming on board in the earlier part of next year to open a campus as well. And so, thinking about the future of learning, like we're thinking about the future of work, experiential learning, and integrating, university experiences into the private sector. That's what gets me very excited about 2021.
Well, those are some great, ambitious plans, and I know there's more news to come. So we're eager to hear all of that. Jamie, thanks for your time today.
Thanks, Michael. Always a pleasure.
IT is changing the workplace in Ottawa by allowing us to converge different systems onto one network, allowing us to be more efficient, allowing the building automation system, lighting systems, and security systems all to talk to one another.
So one of the sectors that's incredibly important to Ottawa is the professional service sector. And sometimes we don't think about it necessarily as a major employer, but if you flip through the pages of the Book of Lists and take a look at the number of employees employed by law firms and accounting firms and consultancies, you'll be quite amazed. So we wanted to check in with a law firm that is particularly well suited to this because it has very deep roots in Ottawa's community. So I'm pleased to welcome right now Megan Wallace, who's a partner at Purley Robertson, Hill and McDougall. Welcome to you, Megan.
Thanks so much for having me.
You know, a lot of the discussion in this pandemic year, Megan, from a business perspective has been about, you know, how are restaurants doing, how are retailers doing, how are main streets doing. No one's talking about how professional service sector is doing. So we were going to start off there and say, if you were to look back at 2020 from your perspective at Purley Robertson, what was the year like?
I mean, I think when I started thinking about how to conceptualize this, the first kind of words that came to mind were, you know, weird and unusual, just like I think everybody else is experiencing. Although we're an essential service as a law firm, we had to, you know, immediately pivot in a couple of days to an entire work from home model, just like so many other businesses did. But for our point of view, it wasn't something that we had ever contemplated that the entire staff would work from home. You know, obviously we have our laptops and we're kind of individually equipped, but it was not something that we conceptualized. So we had to pivot to do that relatively quickly, which was incredibly interesting and also quite scary when you're having to figure it all out on a few days' notice. So that was probably the biggest change in terms of what we've been doing internally. We're back at the office now, all distanced and masked as we should be. But in terms of our own operations, that was probably the biggest change for us. In terms of how it impacts the work that we do, law firms and the business we do is very much linked to what's going on in the economy in the world. So what we started seeing was a lot of changes in the nature of the work. You know, the courts were closed, so that really meant that the litigators were missing out on their court experiences and were doing other things. Residential real estate has been surprisingly hot in the Ottawa market, I think. So that's been very busy. And the kind of inquiries we get on the day-to-day basis really stem from what's going on. So rather than inquiries about new projects in the height of COVID, what we were getting was inquiries on problems, you know, negotiating with landlords for rent, rent relief, or people making inquiries about employment issues and having to lay people off and things like that. Seeing a lot more people looking for assistance with kind of shorter term problems related to COVID, rather than people kind of launching into new exciting ventures that they want help with.
Megan, before we wrap up, I was going to ask you to gaze into your metaphoric crystal ball with all your advice and knowledge, and give us a sense of what, from a lawyer's perspective, we might see in 2021.
Well, I think we're all hopeful that the winter is going to be gentle on Ottawa and our businesses. So I think it really depends on how the next few months do roll out. If things go well and we're able to keep the economy moving and hopefully get it, improving from the effects of COVID, hopefully we'll start seeing people diving into new projects or even pivoting in terms of things that they've learned during COVID that might work for their business. So we talk a lot about how disastrous this has been, and those are fair and reasonable conversations to have because it's been a really difficult time. But there are also people that are exploring new opportunities. A lot of folks are now moving to work from home, so we're going to see people, I think, giving up spaces, selling buildings, and seeking advice on what is converting my workforce to a work from home workforce look like? What does giving up my lease, except for a very small portion of what I need, look like? The other thing we're unfortunately expecting to see as government funding runs out, and as businesses are perhaps receiving less support than they had in the past, is unfortunately we're worried about bankruptcies and insolvencies. We have a pretty good practice group in this area, and they've been getting calls continually throughout the pandemic. But I think a lot of the commentary that we're all seeing is that what happens over the next few months in terms of potential shutdowns really will impact whether businesses are able to survive. So the hope is that businesses will be in a position to start thinking about what's next rather than just thinking about COVID. And then the worry is that we'll all be dealing with issues that are trailing on after COVID and still affecting our city.
Megan, thanks for your time today. We appreciate all the professional insights you brought to the Book of Lists launch. Thanks again for your time.
Thanks so much for having me.
We at Commissioner have a diverse workforce. We employ veterans of both the RCMP and the military, but as well we employ their families and friends, and we also employ serving military members and their families. We also have a varied workforce in terms of age groups. We hire a lot of students, so our range spans from 18 years of age to over 70 years of age, and also people from all walks of life.
So at this part of the show, we want to take you to Ottawa's main streets. We know that lots of the businesses that have been struggling are those main street type businesses, retailers, restaurants, pubs, so on and so forth. And to get that perspective, I'm pleased to be joined by Dennis Van Staldijnen, who is the Executive Director of the Wellington West BIA. Welcome, Dennis.
Thank you very much, Michael.
And I think I got your last name. We had to practice a little bit.
You did very, very well, Michael Kuran.
Okay, correct.
I hope I got that right.
Yeah, sure. That's perfect. So listen, Dennis, as I indicated, we want to kind of get your sense of what's happening on main streets. Ottawa, I think main streets have been, pre-pandemic doing well. Like, we were making gains, and then the pandemic hits, and then what happens, Dennis, in 2020? What did happen?
Well, what didn't happen, I guess, is the question there. It's been a roller coaster ride. And like any roller coaster, it's had incredible highs and incredible lows. And we've basically just had to hold on and go along for the ride. I mean, the first thing is, as a BIA, we had our whole year of events and promotions and sort of the usual media buys and all of that. We had all that planned out. And pretty much March 16th, after a couple of days of the lockdown, we had to throw everything out. It was just almost everything that we had planned either had to be canceled or majorly adapted. And then we as a BIA had to sort of pivot to say, well, this is the new reality. We normally help businesses improve and the area improve this way, but given the circumstances, these are the new needs. And suddenly we went from being, the event planners and the floral, beautifiers, to being list keepers of all the businesses that were open. Who's essential? Who's not essential? Who's offering gift certificates and online stores? And then as the regulations changed, we had to adapt with that so that we could keep telling our customers, this is what you can do, and here's how you can support the businesses. The flip side of that too was just trying to stay on top of the government and all of the things that were changing in terms of the levels of support that were being offered, where we needed to put in some advocacy and send letters to people, talking to MPs and sort of decision makers, talking to people who are offering special amounts of funding and, trying to help out in various ways to see what was and wasn't realistic. And so I guess, the lows for the year are pretty obvious. I mean, it was a very, very, very difficult year. And the economic hardship, I can't overstate just how difficult it was for the retail restaurants and small businesses. But the highs were the sudden upwelling of community spirit, of people telling their neighbors to shop local and calling us and asking, how can we help? How can we help? And a lot of the very innovative programs and approaches that came out of this, that it was just a joy to be part of this kind of, communal spirit that was really sort of surging at the time.
I love that point, because as much as we all appreciate our main streets, maybe we were guilty of taking them for granted. And now I think you've got this massive groundswell of shop local, for goodness sake.
Right.
A greater appreciation for businesses. So as we transition into 2021, do you think that continues? What will 2021 look like for Main Streets?
Yeah, I think we can all hope. The one thing I will miss is when my phone rings in 2020, it's almost always something that's important and vital, and where, whatever I answer, it's going to make some kind of a difference to somebody. I hope we don't go back into 2021 in the same sense of kind of, petty fights and squabbles and people focusing on sort of less important things. That sense of communal purpose, I really hope we hold on to that going into 2021. Of course, the vaccines and the pattern of the path of COVID is out of our hand in a global sense, but of course we're going to keep pushing for, mask wearing and proper hygiene, and let's keep this up. Let's not give up now until we really are clear of this thing. But at the same time, we just had a very exciting day yesterday. It was we just announced our boundary expansion. So for us, we'd been working on this for years, and we had to put it on hold for COVID. And originally we thought, as a board, as the staff, we can't do this. We can't get out there and drum up the support for this. But my board really pushed me and said, this is the perfect time to do this, because what it allows us to do is not raise our member levies for the first time in a while. We're freezing the levies, so we're not adding more cost to our members. But at the same time, the expansion allows us to just, expand the range of things that we can offer, and increase the amount of help we can offer in 2021. So for us, at least in Wellington West, we're going to be offering new things and expanding our services, even during this difficult time, so that we can help our members even more.
Listen, you have a neighborhood that is so fascinating, alluring. It's got to be one of the best neighborhoods, both for what it is now and hopefully for what's to come. So, Dennis, I want to thank you for joining us today, and wishing you all the best for 2021 and all your members.
Absolutely, and that neighborhood isn't an accident. It's built from the passion and commitment of so many people. And if there's one thing I can just end with, it's
please.
The Urban Institute of Canada did some studies this summer about how COVID affected different neighborhoods. And the factors that sort of marked the difference between a successful neighborhood and one that hurt more were not things like, how much money people have in the area, or, a lot of the usual marketing indicators. It was how much commitment people had to their local neighborhood and their sense of shared ownership and responsibility for keeping the good thing going. So that's really kind of going to be our watchword for 2021, is to keep building community with our neighbors and with our owners. And that'll help us weather a whole lot of bad stuff, which hopefully won't be happening next year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great add-on and a great insight. Thanks again, Dennis. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you very much, Michael.
Well, that brings us to the end of the 2021 Book of Lists launch event. Thanks so much for attending. As we wrap up, I want to give acknowledgement to the Commissioners of Ottawa. Thanks to Paul Guindon for appearing earlier in the show. We appreciate their support and sponsorship. Please keep them in mind for any of your security needs. With the launch, of course, it means the Book of Lists 2021 is now available. The easiest way to find that is to visit the OBJ website. So that's obj.ca/BOL. Again, obj.ca/BOL. You can find right now the digital edition there, which will be free for months to come. We will also be distributing physical copies of the Book of Lists throughout locations across Ottawa. Please note that after approximately about a 90-day period, we will be locking down the Book of Lists from a digital perspective. And you'll need your code. Everyone that registered and participated in today's event gets a free access code, one of the advantages of attending today. And also, if you want to guarantee delivery of the Book of Lists to your home or to your office, you can purchase it, which includes shipping. Again, for all of those purposes, go to obj.ca/BOL. Before I wrap up, I want to give thanks to the many, many people on the OBJ team who contributed to the success of this project, led, of course, by Peter Kavesi, Lisa Thibodeau, our researcher, Tanya Connolly-Holmes, our creative director, Celine Haché-Paquette, who also helped out with design, our sales and marketing team, Wendy Bailey, Victoria Stewart, Eric Dupuis, also Regan Van Dusen, who helped with some of the video editing. So on behalf of all my colleagues at the Ottawa Business Journal, thanks for attending today. And please enjoy the Book of Lists. As we say, still relevant even in this age of Google, jam-packed with information that you won't find elsewhere. Thanks again. Stay safe, stay strong. Bye-bye.